Here's something that most PC gamers never think about. Every time you launch a game on Linux, you are running a 32-bit application in 2026 on a 64-bit machine with 32 gigs of RAM plugged into a 4K monitor. That's kind of like you are driving a Ferrari with a lawnmower engine bolted in under the hood. But that has been the reality for people who've been gaming on Linux for years and years, and Valve just quietly started fixing it. There's a new Steam beta that completely changes how the client runs on Linux, and if you care at all about the future of PC gaming, specifically on open platforms, you're going to want to understand why they did it and why it matters to you. But first, I gotta keep these lights on. This is Lyra, Hollyland's very first webcam, and honestly, it's pretty impressive for its price point. It has a lot of great features, including the built-in privacy shutter. All you have to do is rotate this part right here, and you don't have to worry about anybody seeing anything that you don't want them to. It comes with a magnetic base, which is awesome because that means you can mount it on top of your monitor or even use a tripod. I'm currently using it on a monopod on my desk. And because the base is magnetic, you can either set it horizontally like I have it right now, or you can rotate it and set it vertically to do vertical-based videos. The sensor on this camera is a lot bigger than most competitors, meaning if you're hurting for space, this is the webcam to get. If you really want to simplify your setup, you can even use it as a microphone as well. Here's what it sounds like on its own. It records at 48 kilohertz at 24-bit recording with up to 25 dB of noise cancellation. So you don't have to have a microphone in your face, you can just record directly on the camera. The Lyra is totally plug and play, so you can set it up once and then you never have to think about it again. It's small, it's compact, and most importantly, it looks great. If you're looking for a webcam that looks great and doesn't break the bank, then the Lyra is the one to check out. And a big thank you to Hollyland for sponsoring this episode. Now, back to what I was saying. So let's back up. Why was Steam 32-bit in the first place? The short answer is history. When Valve first brought Steam to Linux back in 2013, 32-bit support was everywhere. Every distro shipped with it. It just worked. And once something works, you don't touch it, especially if you're a company like Valve that would rather spend that engineering time on other things. Valve is a very small company after all. But here's the thing about 32-bit software on a 64-bit system. It's running in compatibility mode. It misses out on some modern security features that are baked into 64-bit CPUs, and increasingly, Linux distros have been asking the uncomfortable question, do we really still need to ship with 32-bit libraries at all? After all, that stuff is really old, so I don't blame them for asking that question. Fedora, one of the most influential Linux distros out there, actually tried to drop the 32-bit library support entirely last year, but the community pushed back. And mostly, well, not mostly, but partly because Steam would have broken. Bazite's founder came out and said that if the proposal went through as written, the best option would be to shut the project down entirely. Fedora eventually backed off, but make no mistake, they're going to try it again, and I don't really blame them because 32-bit stuff is old. That means that this isn't just a nerdy technical footnote, even though I'm a nerd and you're a nerd. A 32-bit Steam client has been an active threat to the Linux gaming ecosystem for a really long time. Now here's the other headache that Valve has been dealing with, and this one affects every single person who's ever tried to run Steam on Linux. And if you're watching this, it's probably you. Linux isn't just one thing. It's hundreds of things. Ubuntu, Fedora, Arch, Manjaro, OpenSUSE, or OpenSUSE, I don't know how to say it, Debian, and now Bazite, SteamOS, Nobara. All of these gaming-focused distros have exploded in popularity recently. Every single one of these ships different versions of different libraries, and Steam, the client itself, has always had to try to work with whatever your distro happened to have installed. That means when something breaks, it's genuinely hard to figure out why it broke. Is it your distro? Is it a recent update? A weird library conflict? Who knows? Okay, so now that we understand the problems, let's talk about what Valve actually did because it's pretty brilliant. They took a piece of technology that they already built for something else, and then they turn it around on themselves. They turn it around on the Steam application itself. You might have heard of something called the Steam Runtime, or SteamRT for short. If you've ever run a game through Steam or on Linux, then you've already used it. It's essentially a self-contained little environment that Valve ships with Steam. Instead of relying on your system's libraries, games run inside this controlled container that Valve knows works correctly. What Valve has now done in this beta, which I think is called Steam RT3, is they've applied the exact same logic to the Steam client itself. So instead of Steam trying to make nice with whatever your distro has installed, Steam now runs inside of its own container, brings its own environment. It doesn't care if it's running on Ubuntu or Fedora or some custom gaming distro. It just works consistently because it's carrying with it every single thing that it needs in order to run. And in the new version, it's 64-bit. Finally. So why should we, the people who are just here to play games, care about this? First, stability. If you've ever had Steam randomly break after a system update on Linux, this is the fix for that. When the client is containerized, your distro updating its libraries doesn't touch Steam. They're isolated from each other, like a big wall between them. Secondly, consistency across distros. Whether you're a super minimal Arch install or a gaming optimized distro like Bazite, Steam will behave in the exact same way, which is huge for Valve being able to actually support Linux users without it being a 1,000 variable debugging nightmare. Third, the 32-bit thing is huge. Getting off 32-bit unblocks distros like Fedora from finally being able to clean up their library support. It's one domino, but it is absolutely an important one in the chain. And then fourth, and this one is speculative, but stick with me because I think this is probably the most interesting. When you run software inside a verifiable container, you know exactly what's in that environment. Nothing has been tampered with. Nothing unexpected is running. Some folks in the Linux gaming community have pointed out that this could be a path towards eventually addressing one of the biggest remaining problems for Linux gaming, anti-cheat. Anti-cheat software, games like Valorant and some others don't run on Linux because of their anti-cheat systems don't trust the environment. A containerized, verifiable Steam client doesn't necessarily solve that overnight, but it's kind of foundational to what could come, what's possible in the conversation down the road. Now here's the thing, Valve didn't just drop this one update and then call it a day. They also released a massive preview update of SteamOS itself, and this one has a headline that has been a long time coming. The very first line in the SteamOS 3.8 patch notes, the first thing the Valve wrote down is this: initial support for upcoming Steam Machine hardware. That's it. No fanfare, no blog post, no marketing, just a line in a changelog buried in a list of controller fixes and audio patches. That is very Valve. And if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know exactly why that single line matters. All right, quick refresher for anybody that needs it, and if I get anything wrong, let me know in the comments down below so we can all learn together. SteamOS is Valve's own Linux-based operating system. It's what runs on the Steam Deck, that little handheld gaming PC that Valve released 4 years ago at this point. And unlike a normal Linux distro, SteamOS is designed from the ground up for one thing: playing video games. Boot it up, you're in a console-like interface. Every game is right there. You don't need to configure anything. You don't need to know what a terminal is. You just push the button and play the games. The Steam Deck proved that this concept works for PC gaming. Valve sold a lot of them, depending on who you talk to, and the software experience, SteamOS, is a big part of why people love it. But Valve is building the Steam Machine now. It's their living room box. Think of it like a Steam Deck, but for your TV. Valve says it's as powerful as 6 Steam Decks. It has actual discrete graphics, not an integrated chip that like in the handheld, and it's going to run SteamOS. But here's the catch. Until now, SteamOS didn't actually support Steam Machine hardware. That changes with 3.8. So what's Valve actually shipping in SteamOS 3.8? Well, let's start with the big one, the Steam Machine. The patch notes say initial support, which means that the hardware boots, the operating system runs, the foundations are now there. It's not feature complete, but it means that Valve is actively getting the operating system ready for launch. And it's worth pointing out that obviously Valve had this stuff working before because gaming journalists got to go out to Valve and check this stuff out. But now they're shipping it to end users. And given that the Steam machine is supposed to ship sometime in 2026, a window that was originally early 2026, and now it's just 2026 at some point, seeing operating system level support land in a preview build, I think that that's a meaningful signal. Beyond the Steam machine, this update is kind of big for third-party handhelds. If you're running SteamOS on a Lenovo Legion Go, an Asus ROG Xbox Ally, an MSI Claw, or a bunch of other devices, Valve just fixed a laundry list of things that have been broken or missing for a while now. We're talking controller support, TDP controls, charge limiting, RGB LED settings, audio fixes, screen color corrections, the kind of polish that makes the difference between a device that sort of works and one that actually feels finished. There's also a legitimately exciting quality of life addition for LCD Steam Deck owners, hibernation, proper hibernation, where the device fully powers down and saves your session into storage, which should significantly improve battery life on LCD Steam Decks when they're not actually being used in the moment, when you're just sitting there on your table and you're not touching it. And then there are two bigger infrastructure changes that I think are worth knowing about. Number one, SteamOS is switching its display system from X11 standard over to Wayland. This brings better HDR support, better variable refresh rate support on external monitors, better per display scaling. Secondly, controller input latency has been dramatically reduced on non-Valve hardware from 5 to 8 milliseconds of latency all the way down to 100 to 500 microseconds. Microseconds, not milliseconds, microseconds. That's like a 20 times improvement. For anybody who's felt the controls that feel a little sluggish compared to a proper controller, this is probably why. I've never experienced this, but from what I understand, it's something that people have been asking for. Okay, let's zoom out for a second and see what's actually happening here. This week, Valve shipped, number one, a Steam client that finally runs a container, or runs in a container, and is finally 64-bit. Number two, a SteamOS update that begins laying the groundwork for the Steam machine. And number three, a mountain of fixes for third-party hardware that isn't even made by Valve, which is something I love that Valve does. They always support third-party hardware in a first-party way. This is not a company that's coasting. This is not the does nothing and wins Valve that most people joke about. This is a company that is executing a platform strategy quietly, methodically, with almost no PR noise. Think about what they're building. SteamOS is already on the Steam Deck. Lenovo ships it on the Lenovo Legion Go S. More OEM partners are going to be coming with SteamOS. The Steam machine will bring it into the living room, and now the Steam Deck, the Steam desktop Linux client on any Linux distro is moving towards the same containerized, consistent foundation. This feels like a coherent ecosystem, an operating system that scales from a handheld in your pocket to a console under your TV to a desktop gaming rig, all running the same software stack, all managed by Valve. Microsoft has Windows, Sony has their PlayStation operating system, and Valve is building something. And I don't think most people are paying close enough attention to it yet. Valve dropped a containerized 64-bit Steam client in beta and a SteamOS update with the initial Steam support and massive third-party hardware push. On the surface, both of these things sound like boring, technical housekeeping, change logs and patch notes and preview builds. But what's underneath all of this is a company that's building the infrastructure for a serious challenge to the Windows gaming monopoly. Slowly, quietly, they're doing it without a press conference. Valve doesn't talk about what they're doing, they do what they're doing. They just ship it, and lately, they've been shipping a lot of stuff. If this is the kind of stuff that interests you, the technical side of gaming, a gaming discussion without platform wars nonsense, then this channel is the place to be. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Stay rad.